Ted Cruz is running for president. And for those who have not seen Ted Cruz in action, allow me to give you a summary. He says some of the most outrageously far-right things in the history of U.S. politics. He is always trying to appeal to his ultra-conservative base, and he does it in such a fake and artificial fashion. It makes you want to throw up how much sleaze he oozes out of his skin. But somehow, some way, we are supposed to take him seriously. Okay, we will. Let's take a look at Ted Cruz's declaration for his 2016 presidential run at Liberty University. And during this, I want you to note how fake and plastic he is, and then pick out a major contradiction he makes during the speech. Brace yourself.
God's blessing has been on America from the very beginning of this nation. And I believe God isn't done with America yet. I believe in you. I believe in the power of millions of courageous conservatives rising up to reignite the promise of America. And that is why today I am announcing that I'm running for President of the United States. It is a time for truth. It is a time for liberty. It is a time to reclaim the Constitution of the United States.
He is the epitome of everything wrong with the Republican Party. No, scratch that. Not just the epitome. He is what is wrong with the Republican Party. But did you catch the fake facial expressions? The plastic, artificial smile? The way he holds his hands together and looks at the crowd? Oh, it makes me want to puke. And then, did you catch all of the major contradictions he makes during that speech? One was, "Oh, I support the Constitution. Oh, it's time to bring back the Constitution. Oh, did that make my base jump up and down in stupidity?" But seriously, the idea that Ted Cruz cares about the Constitution is bogus. The guy wants to keep open Guantanamo Bay, a place where we torture and sometimes kill people that we illegally kidnap. And nearly a quarter of the people we torture happen to be innocent. A quarter of the people that we anally rape, people whose bones we bake and are forced to stand up, people who we keep awake for several days. Have you ever heard of the 8th Amendment? No cruel and unusual punishment? No? Ted Cruz repeatedly says he wants the Bible and Christianity in the classroom, all throughout the government. Has Ted Cruz ever read a single passage of the Constitution where it clearly states throughout that the government is not to adopt one specific religion and it must remain neutral and therefore secular? No, I bet he hasn't. Please, Ted Cruz and the Constitution in the same sentence is grammatically incorrect. However, I said we would try and take Ted Cruz seriously. So let's break down Ted Cruz's agenda, point by point. Let us begin. First and foremost, Ted Cruz wants to repeal Obamacare. That's obvious, given the fact that he shut down the federal government over it 18 months ago. And for the 100,000th time, Obamacare is a great policy. It has given 16 million people health care that they could not have received without it. And it makes sure that private insurance companies cannot cheat people into worthless health care plans that makes them go bankrupt. And Ted Cruz himself signed up for Obamacare. Yes, this news just came out a few days ago, but his wife somehow lost her healthcare policy at her job. So Ted Cruz and his family signed up on Obamacare. In the dictionary, right below the definition for hypocrite, the example would be Ted Cruz signing his family up for Obamacare. Goodness gracious. Next point on Ted Cruz's agenda. He wants to create a flat tax, which means that there is the same tax rate for everybody. No matter if you are a part-time garbage truck driver or a Fortune 500 CEO, everybody pays the same amount of taxes. Which, in my opinion, really hurts the poor and the working class. Because 25% of someone's $20,000 a year, for most of the poor, that is a huge blow to their home. It's the difference between in and out of poverty. But for the rich, let's say you make $500,000 a year. That's $125,000 out of your money, yes. But that still leaves $375,000 left over. That's a huge amount of money. And Ted Cruz, he also wants to, get this, abolish the IRS. I will never understand this at all. If you abolish the IRS, why still have taxes? Why still have government? The IRS is the one that makes sure that everybody pays their fair share and keeps all of the chaos out of the system. I understand we should try to simplify the tax system, but this is simply ridiculous. Abolishing the IRS goes way too far, and you're essentially, in the long run, getting rid of government. That's just ridiculous. Next point on Ted Cruz's agenda. He wants to secure the border. No illegals, none of those dirty Latinos. And listen. Don't get me wrong. This is a very touchy and controversial subject. And I would still try to tighten security on the border, but I think forcing all of the undocumented immigrants out of the country, which is what he means by secure the border, that's what Ted Cruz plans to do, I think that is absolutely absurd. People come to this country in hopes of evading a lot of the troubles that are actually created by our policies in the war on drugs. The least we could do to these people is allow them to stay with their families and try to find success in this country. That simply seems like the moral thing to do. Forcing out all of the undocumented immigrants is a terrible policy idea. Ted Cruz also wants to decide what women do with their bodies by making abortions illegal. And he wants to discriminate against gays by not allowing them marriage equality. But of course, what else did you expect from a far-right lunatic? He also wants the government to allow anyone to get a gun, no matter how crazy or mentally twisted you are. He also wants to allow military-grade weapons used in actual wars to be in the hands of regular folks. He calls this protecting Second Amendment rights, but let's be clear, it's simply insane. And Ted Cruz's foreign policy is something that will make you die of shock. This guy wants to start war with Iran over the non-existent threat of it getting a nuclear weapon. And Ted Cruz wants to unapologetically support a country where they commit a genocide of the Palestinians and creates beef across the region, Israel. There you go, folks. A complete disaster of a politician. And I have to say, if this guy gets elected, you should seriously consider moving out of the U.S. And that's not a joke. On social issues, this guy wants zero equality, and he wants women to be put down and degraded even more than they have for generations. Fiscally, he is a complete corporate sellout, and he wants to give companies all the liberty in the world to rip off consumers and exploit their workers, giving them horrible pay. He wants the rich to pay the same tax rate as Bob the janitor and Sally the cashier at McDonald's, which we have done for years, and look at what it has done. Destroyed the middle class. His ultra-conservative ideas are going to ruin this country, as they have already have begun to do in the last few decades. You thought Bush was bad? Wait until this clown gets a seat in the Oval Office. This would be a disaster. So beware of Ted Cruz. He's volatile, and he has plans to destroy America as we know it, catering to the needs of the rich and big companies across the globe.